island nation of Australia seeks to match the beauty of its countryside with a reputation of being a world sports center. In September, 102,000 watched as Essendon defeated Hawthorn for the second straight year in the grand finals of Australian rules football. Perhaps the most widely known Australian sporting event is the America's Cup. It won't be held until 1987, but preparations are already underway to capture this prestigious award. Today, perhaps the biggest sporting event down under since the 1956 Olympic Games, the Australian Grand Prix. Alain Prost has already captured the world driving title. After years of trying, the Frenchman won 5 races this year, was disqualified from a 6th, and except for the races in which he crashed, he failed to finish outside the top 5. Perhaps the hottest driver in Formula One is Nigel Mansell. After 5 years and 72 races, Nigel finally won a victory at Brands Hatch and followed up with another win in South Africa. Mansell starts in 2nd place today in the first ever Australian Grand Prix. Well, good morning, everyone. We welcome you to our studios in Bristol, Connecticut for our delayed coverage of the Australian Grand Prix. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with our regular color commentator for our Formula One telecast, John Bizignano. The reason for delayed coverage, there is an 18-hour difference between here and Australia. It's the final Formula One race of 1985, and John, it's a real happening in Australia. Thousands of spectators have gathered. It's a real event for that country.
Well, the Australians are very competitive people, and even between the communities, they're trying to strive for notoriety of being sports centers, as you said. Hotel rooms totally out within a 100-mile radius. Some 8,000 private homes have been asked to take in spectators. They're expecting near on 120,000 people for this first Grand Prix in Australia.
Well, the driving title has already been decided in 1985, the world champion Alain Prost. However, there is another battle underway within this race today. That's for the Constructors' Championship. And Ferrari can capture the Constructors' Championship from McLaren with good finishes here today.
Mathematically, they need to score 11 points, Bob. And the Constructors' Championship is something that the teams take great pride in. It might not have the ambiance of the Drivers' World Championship, but still, to the constructors, this is what's really important to them.
The 16th and final race of 1985 for the Formula One Series will be held in just a moment in Australia, and we'll be back with it in just a moment. Welcome back to ESPN's delayed coverage of the Australian Grand Prix. On the pole for today's race will be Ayrton Senna from Brazil. It's his 7th pole position victory of 1985. Jackie Stewart is in Adelaide, Australia, and had this conversation with Ayrton.
Pole position for the 7th time in this year of Grand Prix racing, the final race of the year. Ayrton, you must be very happy.
I should be very happy, of course. I am very happy for myself, for the team, and it was a very good effort that I did. I couldn't do any better.
You told me a minute ago you couldn't have done a thousandth of a second better than you just achieved.
I think so. I think I had my best in that lap, and the car was quite good as well.
The characteristics of this racetrack, slippery, you say?
Quite slippery, very difficult to put the power on the ground. You are spinning wheels all over the place, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th gear, and therefore I think the one that managed to put the power better on the ground is the one that probably go faster.
What about the race itself? You've had a lot of pole positions. You've had 7 of them now, but not that many victories. Can we do it tomorrow?
We will try for sure, but it's going to be a very long race, probably the longest one in the year, apart from Portugal, which was in the rain, and under very difficult conditions, quite hot and slippery track, full of corners and gear changes. I mean, the hand tomorrow is going to be very hard on the gearbox.
Best of luck.
Thank you.
Without doubt, one of the most promising drivers in Formula One, and he's certainly made his mark in that type of racing this year.
Well, he's put on some tremendous shows, that's for sure, and he is emerging as certainly the next potential world champion, maybe not next year, but the year after, for sure. Also, we talked to Niki Lauda. Jackie Stewart asked him about his potential retirement here at the Australian Grand Prix.
Here in Adelaide, it looks like the swan song of Niki Lauda. It looks like this time he, in fact, is going to retire and stay retired. However, he has had many great offers, most recently for $5 or $6 million, and that's very tempting. He has already announced that he's going to retire, but can he stay out with that kind of offer coming in? Well, it's better to ask Niki Lauda that question.
I decided in August that I'm going to stop in the end of this year and to run my airline in Austria. So I tell you, even with these offers, I hope that my character is strong enough to maintain my position. I think I will be able to.
I hear just a wee bit of doubt in there, Nicky.
Yes, I got a little Scottish influence like you do, and I prefer to have the money in the bank than not. But to be straight again, I really believe that it's the right time for me to stop. And you have to think the other way. Let's say they only offer $500,000 instead of $5 million, for example. You wouldn't think about it, and I wouldn't. So really, it's only the money which makes you go for it. I think this is absolutely wrong, because motor racing is dangerous and needs much more than being paid for doing it. I mean, if your heart is not with it anymore, the best thing is to stop, even with a good offer.
So it appears as if this will be the final race for Niki Lauda. The start of the Australian Grand Prix is just moments away. We'll be back for it in a moment. Very sunny and hot day in Australia. The description of the course, it's 2.35 miles in length. There are 13 turns, 7 rights and 6 lefts, 1 chicane and 1 hairpin. It also has a very long straightaway in which speeds reach well over 200 miles an hour. Now a look at the starting lineup for today's Australian Grand Prix. On the pole will be Ayrton Senna in car number 12, driving the Lotus, his 7th pole this season. Outside of row number 1 will be Nigel Mansell in the Williams Honda. The second row, Keke Rosberg in the Williams Honda and Alain Prost in the McLaren Tag. In row number 3 will be Michele Alboreto, car 27, the Ferrari, and Mark Schur in the number 8 Brabham BMW. In row number 4 will be Gerhard Berger in the Arrows BMW and Patrick Tambay in the Renault. And in the 5th row, Nelson Piquet, car number 7, the Brabham, and Elio De Angelis in the Lotus. In the 6th row, Terry Boutsen and Derek Warwick. Row number 7 will have Eddie Cheever and Riccardo Patrese. In the 8th row will be Stefan Johansson in the Ferrari and Niki Lauda in the number 1 McLaren. The 9th row, Martin Brundle in the Tyrrell and Philippe Streiff in car number 25. The 10th row, Alan Jones in the Beatrice Lola and Jacques Lafitte. In row number 11, Piercarlo Ghinzani and Ivan Capelli. And in the 12th row will be Pierluigi Martini and Teo Fabi. All alone in row number 13 will be Uwe Rothengatter in the number 24 Osella Alpha. Well, the flag has been given. The cars move away for their warm-up lap, and we are just a few moments away from the start of this Australian Grand Prix. There will be 82 laps over this 2.35-mile course.
Well, there's some great street racers up front here. Of course, you have Ayrton Senna, who mastered Monte Carlo both wet and dry. Nigel Mansell did very well in Detroit and Dallas. Keke Rosberg, the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix, again in both wet and dry conditions. So for a street course, the first 3 qualifiers here are great street racers. They know how to come close to the walls and not touch them. Great deal of competition up front. In the Williams team alone, you have Keke Rosberg, who's been considered the number 1 driver in that team for the last couple of years, but Nigel Mansell has won the last 2 races. Keke wants to go out of this race for sure, beating his teammate before he moves on next year to another team.
20 cameras are covering this course. There are 16 cameras actually located on the course, with 4 in the pit area. And Patrick Tambay will be carrying an in-car camera for the duration of the event, and this is giving us some tremendous pictures. It should be an exciting view from the cockpit of his car. You can see the cars come down, warming up their tires. This is the long backstretch, the fastest part of the race course, and the times and the speeds have been well over 200 miles an hour before they have to brake heavily and go into this hairpin.
It's very unusual for a street course, Bob, to have a 200-mile-an-hour straightaway. At Monte Carlo, the top speed may be 176 miles an hour going down the hill into the chicane and so forth. Detroit, even an average speed there of around 82 miles an hour. So this is, for sure, the fastest street course in existence today for Formula One cars.
Normally in Australia on a Sunday morning or a late Sunday morning, early afternoon, about the only thing that disturbs the peace, the sound of some church bells. But today it's the sound of racing engines as the Formula One circus has arrived in Adelaide, Australia. Out of the hairpin now, and the cars will be stopping before getting the green and the start of this race. Once again, back in the in-car camera with Patrick Tambay.
One thing that Mansell's trying to do is be the first British driver to ever have 3 Grand Prix victories in a row. No British driver has ever done that, but Nigel is going to try and make that the first here in Australia at the first Grand Prix.
Nigel is on the left of your screen, starting in second position. Senna is the pole sitter. We get set to go with the Australian Grand Prix, the first ever in this country.
Senna's going to want to be first into that corner.
Just a little slow getting off the line, and Nigel Mansell from outside of row number 1 grabs the lead as they come down into the chicane. Nigel Mansell has grabbed the lead here with Keke Rosberg, his teammate, dropping into third position. Alan Jones having a tough time getting away from the starting line, and that Beatrice Lola, but he appears to be rolling now. The cars come down and into one of the tight corners, and Mansell is forced off of the race course as Senna got alongside him. Mansell losing several positions now. Keke Rosberg grabs the lead. Senna is in second, and Michele Alboreto is third.
Well, as I said, some street racers up front, and whoever gets the lead early on in this race is going to be able to dominate things, and for sure Ayrton Senna wanted to be in that lead. I think he really pushed Nigel off into the dirt there, and I don't see him coming out of the dirt there. I don't see him in the back. I think he may have had a problem in there.
Well, we'll wait and see. In any case, Keke Rosberg and the other Williams Honda as sparks are beginning to show from the underside of the Rosberg car as they come down the long backstretch. Now, those sparks will become less and less evident as the weight of the car becomes lighter and as the fuel is used up. Rosberg is the leader with Ayrton Senna running in second position. A tough break for Nigel Mansell, who was forced off the course while in the lead in one of the first few corners of the race course.
Very tough for him to make up the spaces that he needs to secure that third victory in a row now, Bob, that's for sure. Coming down along the pit straightaway here, that's first lap completed, but I cannot believe how far Keke Rosberg and Ayrton Senna have actually pulled away. They seem to be pulling away quite easily. It looks like the course is quite bumpy. I wasn't aware of the bumps in this course, and under braking conditions, that can be very hazardous.
Rosberg and Senna running first and second. A little bit of racetrack between second and third position. Running in third is Michele Alboreto, followed by Alain Prost, then Gerhard Berger running in fifth place, and Mark Schur is running sixth.
It's nice to see Berger and Suhr up there. And here we go to the in-car camera. This is the start of Patrick Tambay. We'll try and see if they pick up Nigel Mansell in that incident. Patrick did start quite a ways back from them, but right up the back of boots in there. My gosh. You can see the very first start, what they do is just fight for position. They try and maintain their own ground, but take up anybody else's that they can get. Now, we're coming down into the corner, I think, where this incident happened. Fantastic coverage here. And yes, there's Nigel off. Well, he did come back on the track. So we know that he is running, but we have no idea if there were any complications caused by that incident.
Well, he lost several positions in any case, and Mansell has got a lot of work to do now to get back up into the top spot. Nigel Mansell has won the last 2 Formula One races. Those, of course, were in Brands Hatch, the European Grand Prix, and the South African Grand Prix. There are the leaders. Keke Rosberg followed closely by Ayrton Senna.
Keke Rosberg once mentioned to me the erratic driving style of Ayrton Senna, and I had to remind him that his second year in Formula One, his driving style was very similar, and actually at some points has not improved that much. But Keke has to be watching in his mirrors to make sure that Ayrton doesn't become a little bit more Brazilian enthusiasm come into his bloodstream there, and maybe do the same thing to him that Nigel Mansell unfortunately was beset upon there. But Keke can also try and pull away here. I can't figure out exactly where the Lotus is losing ground to Keke, but the Williams have certainly been performing very well both in braking and handling, but the Honda power has been what's been significant in the last 2 races. And something I want to bring up here. Gerhard Berger there in the Barclays Arrow, and also Mark Sewell. There's a saying in motor racing, they only remember your last event. These are two free agents that deserve a good ride next year. So this race, they're going to try and do everything possible for the team managers, and in the pits, Mansell in the pits. So certainly, and they're not moving that fast around the car, Bob. It looks like they may have a problem over in a, they're looking at the suspension there. That's where the contact took place.
I would imagine that when he did get off course, at least something broke in the suspension that's going to force him out of today's Australian Grand Prix, and he could very well end up being the first car out of the race. So Nigel Mansell will not become a three-time winner in 1985 on the Formula One circuit. He is already out of the race. There's Martin Brundle in one of the Tyrrells running very slowly down the straightaway. It looks like he is still under power, but the car very, very slow. Martin Brundle, car number 3. Martin, of course, from Great Britain. The lead continues to be held by Keke Rosberg from Finland. Running in second position is Ayrton Senna. Third is Elio De Angelis, and Alain Prost, the world champion, is running fourth. Back with more right after this. Bob Jenkins and John Bisignano back with ESPN's delayed coverage of the Australian Grand Prix, where Keke Rosberg leads at the present time. We go back into the car of Patrick Tambay and see again that Nigel Mansell was forced off course by Ayrton Senna in the early going, and Nigel Mansell has come into the pits. He has retired from competition.
And that's definitely put Nigel out of the race. He has not come out of the pits from that pit stop, and they were looking at the left rear, and that's where the contact took place. So there must be some piece of suspension.
You know, we had this in-car camera earlier in our Formula One telecast. I believe Germany was the first place that we saw it, but they obviously have perfected this thing, and the shots that we are getting from Patrick Tambay's car over his right shoulder are just tremendous. You can see at that point he was over the curb a little bit, the car bouncing. In fact, he loses a position. Great coverage from the in-car camera of Patrick Tambay.
Unfortunately,
well, Pierluigi Martini in the Minardi has spun off course and is getting some assistance from the corner workers.
It seems that he's still running. Now he's motioning. Now they really shouldn't push him back onto this track. They aren't allowed to really give him a push start. They're only allowed to push him out of harm's way. He may have had the motor running, we don't know.
There is Ayrton Senna running behind the leader, Keke Rosberg, as they come down the straightaway once again, with Michele Alboreto still running in third position. Alboreto has had a tremendously tough second half of the season after being in contention for the world title for several races. He had some bad luck, and now, of course, is going to finish second in the standings to Alain Prost. Once again, we saw Martin Brundle running very slowly on the racetrack, but still out there.
Keke Rosberg turned the fastest lap, and Martin Brundle is turning the slowest. You notice when he came around the first time, he was just opposite the pits going very slow, so he's trying to make a full rotation around and probably get back to the pits. That's why you see those white flags waving. That means that there's a slower vehicle ahead, and the driver should take caution.
Streets of Adelaide, Australia, and you really, as we look at this course, it looks like they have done a tremendous job in combining street course with a section of racetrack that they constructed in a horse racing facility here in this city.
The actual design and layout of the track was assisted by, of course, the world champion Australian driver Jack Brabham, but the actual physical putting up of the walls and make sure that the surface itself is qualified for this type of racing was done by the city. The city wanted it to be a city project. It's initiating a great deal of pride, both locally and worldwide. So for a first event, they must be given a great deal of reward for everything going so smoothly.
The promoter of the event is actually listed as the government of Australia. There is no individual or even major company involved in the promotion, although they do have a sponsorship on this event from the Mitsubishi company.
Most Grand Prix these days do need a commercial sponsor over and above the promotion and payment of entrance fees, but Ayrton Senna is certainly getting closer to Keke Rosberg. I think he's catching him under braking. The Honda has been going through a great development program over the last couple of months. The problem was when the engine first came out, it had a very narrow rev band. That means that the power of the engine could only be transmitted to the ground through a few thousand RPM, but the engineers in Japan have done a very good job of expanding this rev band, and therefore down the straightaway, what used to dominate Formula One is the Renault, is now being totally dominated by the Honda power car. And here we have Jack Laffite into the pits with the Ligier car. Jack has been having some very good races the last few events. He's been on the winner's podium 3 or 4 times this year. He's the oldest driver in Formula One at the moment. I'd like to see Jack. It doesn't look like a very quick pit stop, but he's not getting out of the car.
Well, they are changing both front tires on that car, but they're taking their time in doing it. Jacques Laffite started this race in 20th position and is in for an early pit stop. As we go back to the racing, here is third place Michele Alboreto, followed by Gerhard Berger, who has passed Alain Prost, and Gerhard Berger is now in 4th, Prost back to 5th.
It's incredible to think that Gerhard Berger, another Austrian actually, was in a very serious road accident last year and was actually in intensive care as late as this January. And here he is holding down one of the very coveted first 6 places in a Formula One race, only some 9 or 10 months after that horrendous road car accident.
We had a quick shot there of the rear wing of Jacques Laffite. He has gone back out onto the course, so Laffite rejoins the hunt. Following Alain Prost here, who is running in 5th position. 6th is Mark Schur, and then in 7th place is Elio De Angelis in the other Lotus. Michele Alboreto running in 3rd place in the Ferrari. Remember that Ferrari very much in contention for the Constructors' Championship, but they do need good finishes from both Alboreto and Stefan Johansson.
There's also a bit of extra competition between Michele Alboreto and Alain Prost. Alboreto finishing 2nd in the World Championship to him as far as driver's points, and here comes Prost having a very serious look both left and right around Berger. I don't think he's going to be able to do it this time, but Alboreto certainly wants to try and finish ahead of Prost to at least have that one claim to fame in the last race.
The car right ahead of Michele Alboreto is Jacques Laffite, as he has made an early pit stop but gotten back out on the racetrack. Lead continues to be held by Keke Rosberg, with Senna running in 2nd position. Then Michele Alboreto. There are the first 2. As you can see, Senna a little loose there. In fact, it appears he's having some either handling problems or the power just getting to the racetrack that he talked about in his interview with Jackie Stewart.
Well, it's hard to determine if Senna is having handling problems just because of his driving style. Sometimes the spectacular style alone is enough to make people think that there are handling problems.
Keke Rosberg, the leader, with Ayrton Senna right behind him, then about 2 or 3 seconds before we get back to the 3rd place car of Michele Alboreto. So we will continue with our delayed coverage of the Australian Grand Prix here on ESPN right after these messages. Stay with us. Back at the Australian Grand Prix, Keke Rosberg continues to lead. Ayrton Senna running 2nd. Alboreto is 3rd. Prost 4th. Mark Schur is 5th. And Elio De Angelis has moved to 6th. Now, Gerhard Berger has begun to fall back. He was running as high as 5th. Make that 4th. However, he is falling back. He's still out there on the course, but Berger having some problems here in the Arrows.
The Arrows team has really come along in the last couple of events. Jackie Oliver, a very well-known Grand Prix racer in the 60s, has done a great job of bringing this team, the BMW-powered team, right to the forefront, working on much less budget than some of the other teams. He's done a great job of managing funds and his team throughout this particular year.
Some close racing here for 3rd position, as Prost is now right up on the rear wing of Michele Alboreto. As a matter of fact, 3, 4, 5, and 6 here running nose to tail. Alboreto followed by Prost, then Schur, then De Angelis. Now it's Alain Prost moving to the inside and passing Michele Alboreto. So Alain Prost moves into third, and Mark Schur now right up on the back bumper, or the back wing, I should say, of Michele Alboreto, and Schur goes inside, out brakes, and Schur also picks up the position. Alboreto falling back. Could it be the car, or is everybody else just standing on the gas here?
Well, coming out of that last turn where Prost went by, he did not use all of the circuit. I don't know if he missed a gear there or what, but his full inertia down that straightaway was much less than it should be, and Prost really blew him off, and the Ferrari motor should be able to withstand the tag turbo going down that straightaway. But both the BMW of Mark Suhr and Alain Prost, one got by on power and the other one got by on braking, so we're not sure exactly what happened. These are two cars coming out of the pits, and I did see a Barkley on that back wing. It might be Gerhard Berger coming out of the pits. He certainly disappeared from the front group here.
Well, an impressive drive so far for Mark Suhr in that number 8 Brabham car. He started this race in 6th position and has now moved up to 4th and is doing battle with the world champion this year. There is no definite commitment, I understand, on behalf of Brabham to Suhr for next year, but it would seem that it would be a wise decision if they signed him. He has been very impressive in some races this year.
Well, Mark was actually let go by the Barkley Arrows team at the end of this year, and he started out the season without a drive. And then a seat opened up in the Brabham team, and BMW asked in the pits. We do have one of the Ferraris there, and we also have Patrick Tambay in the pits with the in-car camera, number 15. That's one of the most frustrating views a driver has, sitting still. And you can see how dangerous the pit row can be. These cars can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, and therefore it's a very dangerous situation. I was saying about Mark Suhr, he did pick up this drive and has certainly earned the right to keep it.
So Patrick Tambay with the in-car camera back out on the racetrack. Right behind him is Ivan Capelli in the number 4 Tyrrell, and behind Capelli is Teo Fabi. Now, both Fabi and Capelli started at the rear of the field, and Patrick Tambay comes out right ahead of them after having made a pit stop. So the race continues, and Keke Rosberg continues to set the pace. Senna is still running second. Back with more from the Australian Grand Prix. Adelaide Victoria in South Australia is the scene of today's Australian Grand Prix, the first ever points-paying Formula One race held in this country, and there is a 4.131 second difference between the later Keke Rosberg, shown here in the Williams Honda car number 6, and second place. That, of course, is Ayrton Senna, the pole sitter in today's event.
Keke Rosberg is showing a little bit of tire wear there. And here we have Alan Jones, the only Australian in the race, with the Beatrice Hart-powered car. Alan qualified well. He was the fastest of all the Hart-powered cars. This is, of course, the only American entrant with the Australian driver. Patrick Tambay will be driving for the Beatrice team next year when they have the Ford Turbo. Now, that engine will be in the car and running the last week in November or the first week in December. And everyone, including Alan Jones and Patrick Tambay, are looking forward to the Ford Turbo making its entrance into Formula One via the Carl Haas managed, Teddy Mayer managed American entrant through Beatrice Racing.
Well, a lot of testing, I expect, can be forthcoming here on this car, because they hope to do well in their first full season next year. There's Keke Rosberg, the leader, as he continues to move flawlessly around this 13-turn, 2.35-mile course here in Australia, passing Pierluigi Martini once again, who got off course earlier in this race, but was helped back onto the circuit and is still out there. He is, however, being lapped by the leader.
Seems like he must have gotten a little bit of a friendly push there from the friendly Aussies in South Australia, because he was able to rejoin the race after that little excursion into the sand.
There you get an interval between first and second. Again, it's about 5 seconds between Rosberg and Ayrton Senna. Rosberg, there are the standings, by the way. Prost running in third, Suhr is fourth, DeAngelis fifth, and Niki Lauda now moves up into sixth position. Those are the standings after 15 laps here in the Australian Grand Prix. We'll take this break and be right back with more action from Adelaide, South Australia. Jenkins and John Bisignato with the delayed coverage of the Australian Grand Prix. There once again is Alan Jones, the Australian driver in the Beatrice Lola, car number 33, as he, as we indicated earlier, qualified rather well at 19th position and is doing quite well in that Hart-powered car. There's Pierluigi Ghinzani in the number 20 Tolman car as he comes in for some fast pit work.
Very quick pit stop there in the Benetton car. Interesting, Benetton has actually bought the Tolman team. So here we have a sponsor, again, somewhat like Beatrice, a sponsor actually buying the team. And the in-car camera of Patrick Tambay right up the exhaust there of the Ligier. We're not quite sure if that's Street or Jacques Lafitte, but certainly a great view on the inside, passing, downshifting, a bit of a wiggle there. There's how close they were. But Patrick accelerating out of the corner, trying to get the power to the ground. This is a great view. This is exactly what it looks like from the driver's own viewpoint.
That was Philippe Strife that he passed there in that nice move going into the corner, outbraking him. Coming out of the hairpin and down the front straightaway here, we're riding with Patrick Tambay.
Down the gearbox. Fantastic sound here also. Drivers are so aware of the sound. Everything is so acute, you can virtually hear valves opening and closing. Gearboxes being worked. Synchro meshers. So beautiful, it should be just left alone.
Patrick Tambay already has a commitment for 1986.
He will be joining Alan Jones in the Beatrice team.
As you indicated, John, the sound is so tremendous of the gearboxes being worked and the gears being shifted. Really some outstanding shots and noise there from Patrick Tambay's cockpit.
Well,
K.K. Rosberg still leads, though.
It's the environment of a Formula One car, and it's nice to be able to take the viewers and ourselves into that environment in such a realistic way.
And Rosberg has once again opened up some daylight between himself and Ayrton Senna. Senna not even in this shot now as he has dropped back just a little bit. There he is coming out of the corner. But K.K. Rosberg moving flawlessly here in Australia and appearing to be on his way to victory, although we have a lot of laps remaining here in the Australian Grand Prix. We'll be right back. Tonight on ESPN at 10 o'clock Eastern Time, America's Cup 87, Bring Back the Cup. Although the race isn't for a couple of years, there are a lot of preparations going underway, millions of dollars being spent on development. And we will have the first in several programs here on ESPN tonight at 10 o'clock regarding the America's Cup 87.
Coming back out of that break, we saw that Alan Jones was in the pits with the Beatrice-powered Hart. Unfortunately, they were taking the top body panel off the car, which means there's something more serious than just a tire change. But Jonesy was not getting out of the car. So in his homeland here, we hope that he can rejoin the rest of the field.
I would think that K.K. Rosberg would have a little bit of incentive to win today's race. Naturally, he wants the victory, but there's more incentive because this is his last drive for the Williams team. He has won many races for Williams and would probably like to put another one under his belt before he switches next year to the McLaren team. There are the positions after 20 laps: Rosberg, Senna, Suhr, Prost, Lauda, and Alboreto.
Well, it was passing here, coming up the inside. That is one of the Ligiers going around, I think, the back marker of the Tolman car. At this point, that's not a pass for the first six. It's Philippe Strife in that car. They are grouped amongst the leaders, but they are not on the same, well, they might be on the same lap, but they are back markers.
Keke Rosberg has led all the way so far. He completed the first lap in the lead and has been there ever since. A little over 20 laps are completed here in the Australian Grand Prix, and we will be right back. For the Australian Grand Prix, and Patrick Tambay has dropped out of the race, and unfortunately his demise from the event means that we will have no more of those great shots that we got from above his right shoulder with the in-car camera. Patrick Tambay retires from the Australian Grand Prix.
And that will be the last time you see Patrick Tambay in a Renault powered car in a Renault chassis. Also be the last time that you see that particular Renault ever in racing, because Renault is going to be pulling out of Formula One next year as a manufacturer of chassis. They will be supplying engines to several teams, but this is the last race for Renault cars in Formula One.
And we have had a change of position here in the last lap or two, as Marc Suhr has passed Alain Prost. Suhr now in third and Prost in fourth position. So Marc Suhr in that Brabham continues to look very strong here in the early going of the Australian Grand Prix.
You can't be more pleased. Marc is if you had to pick 100 out of a crowd of 100 people, if you had to pick the Formula One driver out of it, he would be one of the last people you would ever pick. He likes horses. He has a place just outside of Basel, Switzerland. He bought a ranch down in Spain. Great fan of Colorado. He and I spent about 5 days in Breckenridge, Colorado, and Summit County, going up in the mountains and riding horses through little places like Guffey, Colorado, and West Cliff and Silver Cliff. And he lives at a very polarized life. The Alps of Switzerland and his horses and the Grand Prix scene are probably the two greatest polarized environments that someone could maintain a living in.
Although his best finish in a Formula One race was a second, his best finish this year has been a fourth. That was in the Italian Grand Prix at Monza. Marc Suhr from Switzerland in the Brabham BMW, and here he has turned the fastest time of the race so far, a little over 98 miles an hour. So that car working well for him.
I think that might be his fastest lap ever. And he was in second place when he dropped out in Brands Hatch. He may have even won that race. Back in the pits, the Toleman again, Ghinzani again. Looks like no major problems except for tires. The circuit seems to be eating up the Pirellis a little bit quicker than it's eating up the Goodyears.
Well, this is the second time that Ghinzani has been into the pits in the last few laps. It looks like they have nearly completed the tire change, and he'll be going back out on course. Meanwhile, we go back and concentrate on this third and fourth place battle between Marc Suhr and Alain Prost. Now there is Alan Jones, who has come into the pits another time, but is back out in competition.
Again, the Hart-powered cars, I don't mean to be knocking Brian Hart at the moment. He does very well with virtually no budget compared to the Ferrari and BMW and Renault. The Hart-powered cars all year long have had tremendous engine reliability problems, and the Skoal Bandit cars are not even in Australia because of the fact that they spent so much money in blowing up their motors.
And as you can see, if you look very closely at the right front of the Suhr car, it's beginning to show signs of tire wear also. Meanwhile, Keke Rosberg showing nothing that slows him down. He's still in the lead, and it's an even larger margin for him now over Ayrton Senna. Now, speaking of Brian Hart, there was some rumor going around recently that Hart would even be out of business next year because of the tremendously bad luck that he has experienced with the engines this year.
Well, let's look at his customers. Toleman is going to BMW engines. The Beatrice car will be getting the Ford Turbo. And, of course, the Skoal Bandit Ram team might not be in competition at all. So his customers are either disappearing or switching motors for next year.
Alain Prost back into third position as Suhr now is falling back just a little bit. Prost back up into third and Suhr back to fourth after Marc was looking very strong there. Passed Alain a couple of laps ago, but now it looks like that he's dropping back just a little bit, John.
Well, it's a shame. He actually out-qualified his, Keke Rosberg has come up with another very quick lap, some 98 miles an hour, which again is very quick for a street circuit. Those, anytime you near the three-figure mark, it's usually at a circuit built for speed and racing only, not through the streets of a city. But Mark is definitely dropping back here. But again, as you pointed out, that tire wear, the Pirelli shod cars seem to be changing tires very rapidly. There he's not using all the road at all, so you may see him in the pits.
Yeah, you can see, if you notice very closely on the right front, that it is showing some major wear, and that, I am sure, is the reason why he is off of the pace now from what he was just a few minutes ago. The question is, will he have to come in and make a tire change in that parameter?
Goodyear seemed to be quite well dialed into this event. And the leaderboard, again, Keke Rosberg, where he's been throughout this race. Ayrton Senna falling back a little bit more. Prost is still fighting his way, trying to get up to Senna. Sir, Lauda, and Alboreto in the Ferrari trying to get some constructors' points.
Alboreto, who started this race from 5th position, now being shown in 6th spot. The leader is Keke Rosberg from Finland. He's led all the way so far, looking very strong in the Australian Grand Prix. We'll be back with more coverage in a moment. Back the Cup program on at 10 o'clock tonight, and here in Australia, Alain Prost has experienced an engine problem, a big puff of smoke from that car, and Alain is going to come into the pits and possibly retire. He is. He's getting out of the car. The Prost McLaren is out of the race, and the world champion for 1985 is finished for the season.
That's Ron Dennis going over to him in the garage area there, asking him what's the matter, but it looked like a turbo to me. That great puff of smoke usually indicates a turbocharger failure, Niki Lauda, the only McLaren on the track. And we have to remember that the Constructors' Championship is still going on. And if Niki was to retire and both Ferraris on the circuit, this could be devastating for the McLaren team. They've certainly won the Drivers' Championship, but they would like to back that up with the Constructors' Championship also. So let's hope Niki is able to stay out there for the endurance of the race. He has not had a great deal of success doing that this year. The season has been marred by numerous DNFs, did not finishes. So let's remember that both Ferraris are running and one McLaren is gone.
There's Keke Rosberg, the leader in the Williams Honda. Now with Prost out of the race, he was running third. Niki Lauda, his teammate, now moves up into that position. Keke Rosberg, and right behind him is Ivan Capelli in the Tyrrell, another one of the newcomers to Formula One racing this year, having moved up from the Formula 3000 series. And Capelli in the number 4 car. No, again, definite commitment from Ken Tyrrell as to whether Capelli will be driving that car next year. Back with more of the Australian Grand Prix right after these messages. That have dropped out of the Australian Grand Prix. Alain Prost just retired with a blown turbocharger. Nelson Piquet is out, so is Nigel Mansell and Patrick Tambay. Mansell dropped out of competition after apparently sustaining some suspension problems when he was forced off course in the very early going of this race. Keke Rosberg, however, has been the leader of the Australian Grand Prix since the drop, or at least since the very first lap. Rosberg running first. Second position is Ayrton Senna.
Coming up on some back markers there, that's Warwick in the Renault, and the other Barclay Arrows car driven by Thierry Boutsen. But Ayrton is now catching up to Keke Rosberg. I don't know if it's the traffic that's holding him up or what, but all of a sudden, Ayrton Senna sliding the car all the way up on the curb. It's easy to sit here and say, why does he do that? But he does do it, and somehow, at least on that point, he survived. There's only a 1.7 difference there, you saw. But going that wide in that particular part of this circuit can be very damaging to the undercarriage of this car, especially when he could have timed things a little bit more better and gotten around the Renault in a less difficult spot.
what was over an 8-second interval between Rosberg and Senna now is less than 2 seconds. Here comes Ayrton on the inside, passes both of the back markers, Boutsen and Warwick, and now nothing between himself and the leader, Keke Rosberg. Senna is driving the wheels off that car, doing a fine job of pulling up on and closing the gap between himself and Keke Rosberg.
And he's doing it under handling and braking. Definitely the Honda-powered Williams has the advantage down the straightaway, but Senna, driving 10/10 here, or even 11/10 at some points, is making up for the slight difference or disadvantage in horsepower, catching Keke on the brakes and in handling, but he's going to have to keep away from these curves and walls. Even though these are flat-bottom race cars now, they still are very sensitive to go banging over hard cement obstacles that they should not be hitting.
Ayrton Senna has already made a commitment with Lotus for next year, so that combination will be back in 1986. You see the cars blast out of the turn. Rosberg followed closely by Ayrton Senna. So Senna is committed to Lotus for next year, but his teammate is a little bit up in question at this point.
Whoa.
Oh, and Senna gets off the course, goes completely over the curb and the rumble strips. Doesn't appear to have damaged the car in any way, but boy, he took a wild ride there coming off the corner.
Well, the camera shot certainly, here's the replay. You see him, he's very loose coming out. I mean, he was going a good 20% over what he should to ever maintain any type of grip through that particular corner. Good old Ayrton, as I said, he puts on some great shows. And it certainly hasn't slowed him down one bit. Now, a couple years ago with ground effect cars and these aerodynamics going underneath the cars and skirts and all that, that car would have been immediately eliminated from competition due to damage underneath the car. But the drivers have a little bit to play with here, but Ayrton Senna is certainly playing every card that he has, and a few that he shouldn't at this particular point in the race. But Ayrton only knows one way to drive, and that's 10 or 11/10, and he's certainly at the latter of those two figures.
So with that little off-course excursion there, he has dropped back just a little bit from Keke Rosberg, but is trying desperately to close in once again. That car appears to have suffered no damage whatsoever by that little incident coming off the corner, as we go to the helicopter high above the race course here and watching Senna's progress as he tries to catch the leader, Keke Rosberg. This is down the very long straightaway in which speeds are 200 miles an hour or more, and I would guess that Ayrton reached 200 miles an hour at that point. So Rosberg, the leader, and Senna running in second position as we continue our delayed coverage of the Australian Grand Prix. Australian Grand Prix, the 16th and final Formula One race of 1985. Keke Rosberg, the leader. Ayrton Senna is running in second position. Mark Suhr is in third. And Niki Lauda running in fourth position. Well over 110,000 people have gathered here for this first Formula One race, points-paying Formula One race in Australia, and they are enjoying a tremendous race. It's very warm in Australia, the temperature well into the 80s, and Ayrton Senna is trying desperately once again to close in on the leader, Keke Rosberg. He was within just a few car lengths a few moments ago when the car got off course and over one of the curbs, and we saw a shot briefly a while ago of his pits getting ready, so he may be coming in. There is Thierry Boutsen, who has come in for a stop in the Barclays Arrows.
Looks like just a tire change there. Thierry was not running with the front group. In fact, I think he's already one lap down, but the Arrows team certainly doing a quick change there. Yes, we saw the Lotus people staged for an expected stop by Ayrton. I think everyone's a bit amazed that there has been no damage to this car. The pit crew can watch the race on monitors, so they see what's going on, and they were expecting him to stop, but Ayrton has has confidence in the machinery at this point, and anyone who says that Lotus is a delicate car and cannot take a beating has not witnessed what Ayrton's been doing to it all year long. So Lotus certainly has a very definite advantage here to be able to keep such a design so strong.
There is Mark Suhr, who is running in third position.
Going around Martini there. Just hope Mark can stay in the points. He deserves a good ride next year, and I would very much like to see Bernie Eccleston, the director of Polka and Brabham Racing, give him the ride that he truly deserves.
Really, neither one of the Brabham drivers are set for next year. We've heard a lot of speculation about Elio De Angelis, who will be leaving Lotus. Suhr is a possibility once again. Derek Warwick has been mentioned. And then there was the talk, of course, that Niki Lauda would accept all that money and come over to drive for Bernie Ecclestone. However, as you heard him tell Jackie Stewart just before our race started, that he's pretty much decided not to do that. Although, John, I think you have a little bit of doubt about that.
Both Jackie and I recognize that last 10 degrees of doubt in Lauda's mind. He says, I would only do it for the money, but let's remember that he came out of retirement last time for the money. His airlines were suffering financially and had some tax problems, and he came out and did not receive anywhere near $5 million for these past two seasons, a mere 2.5. Therefore, he has made that judgment call once before, and I'm not going to say that I think it's at least a 50-50 chance that he will be running next year for the Brabham team at $5.5 million.
You would also think that there was some incentive for him to beat the Stewart record of most victories.
Well, you know, it's easy for us to say that these records are goals for the drivers. They always are very nonchalant and say, no, I don't want to be the driver who's had more Grand Prix victories than anyone else. But deep down inside, they do. Alain Prost had an interview, and he says, yes, Jackie, I would like to stay around for a couple more years just to beat your record. And Stewart, for the first time, did not have an immediate comeback. So that's something that is a goal to these people, to go down in the record books.
We're watching Mark Suhr running in third position in the Australian Grand Prix. In front of him, Ayrton Senna and the leader, Keke Rosberg. But Suhr certainly with an impressive performance here. He started the race from sixth spot, and although he dropped back at one time and lost a couple of spots, he is back up into third now, running by himself, not being challenged by fourth place Niki Lauda at this point.
Obviously, this car being sponsored by Olivetti, the big Italian computer and office equipment machine.
There's the leader, Keke Rosberg, continuing to set the pace here in the Williams Honda. Keke Rosberg so far in 1985 has only had one victory. That, of course, is at Detroit, and a fire appears that one of the cars has caught fire, and it looks like it's Thierry Boutsen, number 18 in the Arrows.
Well, the firemen are very enthusiastic down here, it seems like. There's certainly no flame that could exist under those conditions. They must realize that even the cloud of smoke can be more dangerous than the fire. Obviously, if Thierry is out, and then they give it a little extra just to make sure that everything gets covered. And, you know, this extinguisher dust can do a great deal of damage to some of the very special alloy metals that are used in these cars. And several times this year, we've actually seen drivers taking extinguishers out of firemen's hands and telling them that's just a normal turbo fire or so forth, or doing a little bit to cut down on the amount of extinguisher dust that the poor mechanics have to deal with after the event.
Hard to tell if he made contact with the wall or whether or not he just stopped the car with a fire in the compartment. Nevertheless, Thierry Boutsen in the Arrows out of the race. After 40 laps, they're in the top 6, and we'll be right back. Bob Jenkins and John Visignano with the Australian Grand Prix, and look at Ayrton Senna. He once again is very close to Keke Rosberg, just one car separating those two. Now, we a few moments ago indicated that De Cesaris was in the 6th position. De Cesaris, of course, is no longer with the Ligier team. In 6th position is Philippe Street, although he is one lap down. Alboreto is 5th, and Lauda, Suhr, and now Ayrton Ayrton Senna has passed that back marker and again is very close to Keke Rosberg and making a challenge for the lead.
Well, let's see if Ayrton can keep his cool a little bit this chance. He was right in the same position last time and overcooked it a bit. Let's see if Ayrton can deal with the former world champion of Keke Rosberg, who is not going to give him 1 inch. Even though they're coming up on a Ferrari, they're both going to have to get by, I think it's Stefan Johansson, yes, Stefan Johansson from Sweden. Keke a little bit sideways there. It's very important down that long straightaway to come out of that bend absolutely spot on and not lose time going down the straight. Keke checking his mirrors. Ayrton right up his exhaust.
Here comes Keke Rosberg moving to the inside and passing Stefan Johansson, and so does Senna. But Senna appears to be in a position to pass if he can just find the right moment and the right spot on the racetrack. Rosberg has his...
Whoa!
Oh! And Senna... Senna runs up on the back of Rosberg and damages the front wing of the car. That may have been the only damage suffered, but still it's going to greatly affect the aerodynamics and the handling of that car.
Right. I'll tell you what happened. Keke Rosberg was pulling into the pits, and as you can see, that was the actual entrance to the pits. He may have let off the gas just momentarily, and Senna could not see it. Keke is staying, yes, he's staying to the right rather than drifting to the left. He's probably slowing down for the pit entrance, and Ayrton was caught off guard there for that millisecond and pounded the back of Keke's car, relieving himself of that right wing, and that has a tremendous effect on aerodynamics. You're going to see the car understeering. This means when he turns the wheel, the car there, he turns the wheel and the car still goes straight, and he must adjust to this, or he's going to be going off the course. He's going to be going off the course at every incident where he believes that he's turned the wheel, and that's going to make the effect on the car handle correctly. The Lotus pit is definitely ready for a visit by Ayrton Senna now.
Now, can they replace the wing on this car in just a matter of seconds?
Seconds, no. I would say maximum 20 seconds, 25 seconds. It depends on if the rod inside the nose cone is bent, and if the nose cone has to be changed, it's a good 45-second operation. If they can simply shove in another wing on the one side and
and he gets off the course badly, almost hitting the fence, but now appears to be getting the car under control somewhat and back onto the course. But gee, he is just having all kinds of handling problems with that Lotus, and despite the fact, and in addition to the fact that he got off course, he missed the pit, so he'll have to go around another time before he comes in.
Let's see what happens here. Again, he's turning in, but the car does not turn. That's what you call no downforce on the front end, Ayrton. And look at that poor Lotus is saying, give me a break.
Well, it's been a rough afternoon for Senna. He was off course earlier, then he came in, and there is one of the that's Mark Suhr, who is stalled on the course, and Suhr's tremendous drive here today, it appears, is over. He was up in third position.
Mark. He deserved a well-placed finish here to help him secure a ride for next season. He was running strong. In fact, it's a tire has gone down. The left front is definitely flat there. I would hate to think that he got that by running over some debris from that accident.
Could very well be, though.
I think with an immediate puncture like that you saw the wing go flying over the chassis, and Mark Suhr was not far behind the Lotus when that happened. And I think poor old Mark may have collected a bit of debris, and therefore ending his wonderful Sunday afternoon in Australia.
Well, Ayrton Senna is the leader because Rosberg did come in for a tire change. However, as you can see, Rosberg is about to pass the ill-handling Lotus of Ayrton Senna. There he goes to the outside of the corner as Ayrton finally has the opportunity to come in for his much-needed pit stop. Now we're going to watch and see if they can indeed replace the front wing on that car and make it handle better than it is right now.
Now they have not removed the nose cone, so they are hoping that they can just slide in a right wing And there was a tremendous example of how sensitive these cars are to aerodynamic situations. We're up to 19 seconds. Pull out the safety pin.
Well, they've done it.
They're off. 25 seconds.
25 and a half seconds, and Senna goes back out onto the racetrack, but Rosberg goes into the lead once again, and now Niki Lauda has moved up into second position. Senna, though, you can bet, is going to be once again driving the wheels off of the car and trying desperately to get back up into a winning situation. Back with more from the Australian Grand Prix after this. From the Showboat in Las Vegas, Wednesday, November 6th at 9 Eastern Time, 6 Pacific Live, Top-Ranked Boxing, a 10-round lightweight match between Chris Hodgen and Greg Hodgen, and Chris Calvin. And in the ESPN Light Heavyweight Tournament Western Division Finals, Mike Cedillo against Fred Guzman. Top-Ranked Boxing, Wednesday night, November 6th at 9 Eastern Time. In the Australian Grand Prix, it is Keke Rosberg, the leader. Niki Lauda is running in second position, and Ayrton Senna is third. Now, Senna has replaced the front wing on that car, and besides that, he has fresh rubber on the car, so we'll be looking for him to move up steadily. Here is Niki Lauda on the racetrack with the number 25 of Philippe Street.
Well, Niki Lauda is certainly the master at leading Grand Prix. He's not going to do anything silly up here. But still, the leaderboard there gives it to Keke Rosberg. Niki Lauda, well, here it says Keke Rosberg is still. But I don't believe that's accurate after that last pit stop. We have Niki Lauda, Senna, Alboreto, Warwick in the Renault, and Jacques Lafitte. The Renault-powered cars are doing very well here. We have 3 Renault-powered cars in the first 6.
The McLaren team is set for 1986. It will be Prost and Keke Rosberg in the McLarens.
Keke should be devastating in the M4 McLaren.
No doubt about that.
It would be really something to watch Keke wheel that particular fine chassis around the 16 World Championship events from 1986.
Look at Ayrton Senna, who has caught Niki Lauda here. This will be a battle for second position any moment. Senna now closing in on second place Niki Lauda. Rosberg has about a 30-second lead at this point over Niki Lauda, but I think that we're going to see Senna take over second position here within a couple of laps.
Excuse me, Bob, I didn't realize that Keke had gone by, but the leaderboard and you are accurate on that part.
Senna's Lotus working well, and Lauda, of course, has something to prove because this may be his final Formula One race ever.
You know, Bob, the cars are getting very twitchy in that particular braking point there. Now, that is where Prost dropped some oil earlier, and it seems like one particular line there is extremely slippery, and the bumps don't help any either. Strife certainly not letting Ayrton Senna by with any great ease. And Senna seems to have relaxed slightly in his style. Maybe the team manager had a few words with him during that last pit stop, but Ayrton's certainly not taking the chances that he was earlier, driving a bit more conservatively.
Well, it's been an interesting race for him, off course a couple of times and colliding with the rear end of Keke Rosberg's car and damaging the front wing on the car. But after all of this, he is still in third place. And as we indicated, closing in on second place, Niki Lauda.
Many gear shifts going on here. All street circuits are renowned for maybe as many as 2,800 gear shifts in a particular event. This is one of the longer events of the year. We may even see the 2-hour rule coming into effect here. A Grand Prix is the designated number of laps or 2 hours. If there's any type of yellow flag situation where the drivers have to reduce their average lap time, this beautiful aerial shot here, you could see the 2-hour rule actually closing down the race before the number of laps.
What we have here, John, is a classic confrontation between the veteran Niki Lauda and the driver who's showing a lot of promise in Formula One, Ayrton Senna.
Well, it's something to watch this driver, Ayrton Senna. He himself is physically faster than other drivers. Many times this year when he was on pole position by a good 0.7 of a second, which is a lifetime in Formula One. People would say, where did you get the extra time? And he would say, I got the extra time, not the chassis, not the car, not everything else. He certainly gave his team great credit for giving him the facility, but as far as drawing out the last 100th or 1,000th of a second, he takes no second seat to who's the person who gets out there and gets the job done.
Senna with 2 victories this year on the Formula One circuit. His victories came at Portugal in the rain and also at Belgium when there was at least rain off and on during the race. So he would have to be considered a wet driver, I would guess, but is doing exceptionally well here in the dry and warm conditions in Australia this afternoon.
You speak of warm. Now, these car temperatures could be near on 120 degrees. Ayrton right up Nicky's exhaust, but Nicky's very used to having people up his exhaust. It doesn't really faze him a great deal.
Challenging for second position here, Senna right behind Niki Lauda. It's a matter of moments, I think, before Senna makes his move. Maybe he'll do it here on the front straightaway. Lauda moving to the inside, checking the mirrors to see exactly where Senna is. Ayrton chooses not to attempt the pass at this particular point. The left side of the car getting up onto the curbing once again, as Senna is once again driving desperately and trying so hard to pass Lauda and get back up into second position.
Well, he's definitely getting the time off of Nicky the same way he was getting the time off of Keke. That's on the brakes. Lotus using the carbon fiber brakes, but McLaren also uses the carbon fiber brakes. Dual caliper systems, both front and rear. That means that there's 2 calipers per disc, and the disc is made of carbon fiber rather than steel or iron, as has been passed. And Senna trying desperately there, making a very clean pass. But Lauda, yes, he is going to let it go.
Senna gets around and moves into second spot. And now he sets his sights on the leader, Keke Rosberg, but Rosberg is at this point about 25 seconds ahead of Senna. So Senna has a lot of racetrack to cover before he catches Keke Rosberg.
Now the pits will be letting Senna know exactly the situation on Keke Rosberg and the gap, and he can see if his efforts as we look down on the chicane are closing the gap, or if Keke is going ahead and maintaining a lead with a 20-second plus lap. You'll see the Williams team give Keke a little bit of an easy sign, but still Keke is a person who must drive very hard to maintain his level of concentration. You often wonder why these drivers drive so hard with such a long lead, and they'll very readily tell you that if they drop to 0.8 or something like this, their concentration level goes to a stage that becomes dangerous for them. And Keke Rosberg wants to maintain a lead.
And there is Rosberg in the lead. It's been a very easy race for him so far, but we have several laps to go. Can he maintain it? Well, we'll see right after we come back. Technically refer to those vessels as yachts, not boats or vessels.
Yacht seems more appropriate for a boat that looks like that. Up in Denmark, we refer to them as yachts.
Yachts. Well, here is Ayrton Senna, who has moved back up into second position, but the lead that Keke Rosberg has on him is about 30 seconds at this point. Ayrton Senna is 25 years of age, I should say, born in Brazil, currently lives in England, competed in his first Formula One race in Brazil just last year, and has 2 victories this year in Formula One racing.
Certainly considered one of the young lions. He and Stefan Johansson are maybe considered the 2 most spectacular young drivers in Formula One. But Ayrton is in the Jochen Rindt, the Jackie Stewart, the Mario Andretti league of potential winners of world championships, and I think it's someone who will have to be dealt with for many years to come.
There is third place, Niki Lauda. Running in fourth at this point is Michele Alboreto. Oh, here comes Rosberg in for another pit stop. So apparently he's having some tire trouble that he would like to correct here. He pits while in the lead, but with about a 30-second lead. Can he get out ahead of Senna?
Having some trouble on the left front there. This is 13 seconds is far beyond a Williams normal stop.
You really have to second guess KK here as to why there's almost a 25-second pit stop. He must have had some serious handling problems to have come in for a stop while in the lead, knowing that Senna had pitted and was on new rubber and closing in on him.
The strategy there, if you have a 20-second plus lead, you should be able to get in and out of the pits, even including slow down and speed up times, not only your pit stop, and not lose a position. But obviously here the trouble with the left front put them well beyond the 9 to 11 second normal change, and therefore Keke is no longer leading this particular race.
It's Ayrton Senna in front once again. Lauda is second, and now KK Rosberg drops back to third position. Alboreto is fourth. In fifth position is shown as Derek Warwick, and sixth is Jacques Laffite in the Ligier.
And Jacques Laffite must have been doing tremendous driving in the back of this field, because we saw him early on in the pits, and he did not have that great of a qualifying position. So Jacques Laffite, his Pirelli tires must be working quite well. But right at the moment, it's Goodyear quite far down the line.
This is going to be quite a victory for Senna if he indeed can hold on for the win here, and we have about 25 more laps to go. But Senna has just overcome all kind of obstacles during this race. He has collided with Rosberg. He's been off course several times, but still he is right up there in the lead.
When you say he's overcome some obstacles, he's also gone over some obstacles.
But he certainly can't shake Niki Lauda at this point, who appears to be ready to challenge Senna for the lead.
Niki loves drama. He would love to go out of this World Championship of 1985 winning the last event. What a way to exit your Grand Prix career, starting in 1971, 25 Grand Prix victories, only 2 short of our good friend Jackie Stewart. He's certainly having a look here. But what Niki likes to do, he likes to force other drivers into mistakes, and he'll just haunt Ayrton there, lap after lap, and maybe not taking a huge risk for him to get by, but waiting for Ayrton to possibly make a mistake and then take advantage of it.
Now there you can see the difference between first and third. Rosberg is almost 12 seconds behind Ayrton Senna. So Rosberg certainly can't be counted out of this contest.
Keke Rosberg from Finland, and in the crowd there I saw actually a couple of Finnish flags waving. It's unbelievable, the entrance, the great Scandinavian, or I should say Nordic, interest in Keke Rosberg has been phenomenal. But right now, Niki Lauda is just all over Ayrton Senna.
He is indeed, and you've got to feel that Lauda is going to make a move on Senna here at any moment and make a bid for the lead. Probably will not happen at this particular portion of the race course because of the corners, but I think when we have a straightaway of any length, they might make a challenge. There is Mr. Piquet, who dropped out of the race earlier on, making some gestures to the camera.
Nelson is one of the more, there goes, as you said, heavy on the brakes there.
Heavy on the brakes. Smoke pouring from the brakes, but by golly, he gets the job done. Niki Lauda moves into the lead now. Senna back to second, and Lauda may be on his way to victory here in what could be his final Formula One race ever. Still more than 20 laps to go, though, so it's not going to end soon. However, Lauda has proven that McLaren is working well and capable of leading this race. We'll be right back. The Australian Grand Prix from Adelaide in South Australia being presented on ESPN this Sunday morning. Our final Formula One telecast of the year. The situation is Keke Rosberg is the leader. Jacques Laffite is second. Third is Philippe Streiff. Fourth is Ivan Capelli. Fifth is Gerhard Berger. And sixth is Stefan Johansson. Now there is Frank Williams in the headset, keeping the statistics and watching his driver, Keke Rosberg, in the lead and hoping that Keke can bring him a victory in Rosberg's final drive for the Williams team.
You know, Bob, this would be the third straight victory for the Williams team, and therefore next year they have to be the team to beat. McLaren has dominated the sport for the past 2 seasons, but the Williams team back up where they belong, leading these races, being able to win them, and with Piquet coming into this team to replace Keke Rosberg, Frank Williams, the man with the earphones on there, has to be thinking that he has a golden opportunity for the 1986 World Championship. And Frank has had a great deal of success down under in racing. It was actually in 1968 when Frank Williams won the Tasman Series driving a Brabham car for the championship down here that was run in the off months of racing in Europe with driver Pierre's courage that gave him the thrust into Formula One his first season in 1969. I've known Frank since 1968, and he's a very intelligent, well-deserving person to have this type of team under his control.
Keke Rosberg from Finland is the leader. He won at Detroit earlier this year. He finished second in the South African Grand Prix a couple of weekends ago. He also had a third-place finish at Brands Hatch in the European Grand Prix and a couple of other top 5 finishes. Keke Rosberg appears to be on his way to his second victory of 1985.
He's also a proud father of about 7 months. He and his wife having their first child down in Ibiza. He was married a few years ago after the South African Grand Prix in the Mauritius Islands in the Indian Ocean.
And Jacques Laffite in the number 26 Ligier is running in second position, and it's going to be his best finish of 1985. Stefan Johansson challenging him there, but this is not for position. Johansson in the Ferrari is a lap down. Laffite is second, though, in the Ligier. His best finish so far this year has been a couple of third-place finishes.
Well, we have Berger and Johansson really getting a good battle here.
And this is for position.
This is for position.
This is for 5th spot. There is Laffite once again. He is 41 years old, was born in France, currently lives in England, and has been on the Formula One trail since 1974. His first Formula One race was in Germany.
Tremendous effort here by Stefan Johansson. Really hard on the brakes. The whole front of the car losing a bit of grip, under braking. I wish our cameraman would move up to that particular race. This is the Australian feed. But Jacques Laffite seems very popular with that particular cameraman, or the producer at the moment. So we still get glimpses of this tremendous Ferrari battle going on.
With the Arrows car of Berger. Berger right now in 5th, but there is Johansson at number 28 in 6th. And they're running very close together on the racetrack. This is by far the closest race that we have on the course at this time. Rosberg with a commanding lead. Now we see Berger leading the foursome down the straightaway here. And Johansson right behind him. Stefan possibly looking for a bid here to move into 5th place. Let's see how it goes. Johansson goes high. Berger to the inside. And into the corner they go. And it is Berger getting high. And Johansson moving into 5th spot.
Well, Stefan really took control of that corner. As you can see, he stayed way on the inside. And Berger going straight on into the tire wall. Trying to find reverse. That's not a gear that they normally find too readily. The engine is definitely running. You can see the turbo there on the left. Now he has the reverse gear. Now Stefan stayed way to the right and forced Berger right way up into the apex, and therefore a very slow exit, cut in behind him and accelerated away. Now, again, Bob, I have to say that maybe that far far side of the track there might have some very difficult braking. I can't imagine why Johansson would go ahead and force Berger so surely into a very dangerous situation for both of them, unless he was trying to stay off with some difficult braking. And there you see Berger going straight off into the tire wall. Very effective tire wall, I may say.
The car just did not turn going into that corner, and so Berger hits the tire wall. Don't think he damaged the car any, and he is back on the track, but he has lost a couple of positions. He is back into 6th place right now, but still in a points-paying situation. Keke Rosberg is the leader, and we are only a couple of laps now from the finish of this event. Lafitte is 2nd, Street 3rd, Capelli, Johansson, and Berger. Running in 7th position at this time is Pierluigi Martini, and Martin Brundle is in 8th spot.
Just one point here to deal with points. The travel fund for the 1986 season, and that means how much money the teams get for travel, is determined by how many points you secure in the previous year. So when you see teams like Tyrrell and so forth going for these points, it means a great deal of economic assistance for the next season. So with 2 Tyrrells doing so well at this particular stage, old Ken Tyrrell and Keke Rosberg going by one of the back markers, being able to pass him very easily. And there we have the checkered flag. I believe we still have another good 2 laps to go, but they are ready to end this race. But this point fund is very important for next year's travel fund.
Well, let's go over briefly what we know about 1986. McLaren is going to be Prost and Rosberg. Tyrrell, probably Brundle and Capelli, the 2 drivers from this year.
Well, Brundle for sure. He's in the 3rd year of this. Next year will be his 3rd year of a 3-year contract. Capelli, Ken Tyrrell picked him out of a Formula 3000 race up at Donington and said, he's the man I want. And Ken can certainly spot talent. He's known for that. And the Williams, of course, we have Piquet and Mansell, very strong.
The 2 Brabham drivers, though, pretty much up in the air at this point. No definite commitment from...
And unfortunately, that's the way Bernie Eccleston likes to keep things. He would very much like to sign Niki Lauda. Pirelli and Olivetti definitely want Niki and are willing to pay the bill to get him. They'd also like to get an Italian driver. And that puts Elio De Angelis in a top position for that 2nd drive here.
Only one definite driver for Lotus next year. That will be, of course, Ayrton Senna. The Arrows team, possibly the same 2 drivers as this year, Thierry Boutsen and Gerhard Berger, although there is some talk that Berger might be joining the Toleman team and bringing with him the BMW engines to team with Teo Fabi for 86. As far as the Leger team is concerned, possibly the same 2 drivers as this year. Philippe Streep, who has performed well in the few races that he has competed in, and Jacques Lafitte. Ferrari have already signed Alvaretto and Johansson once again. Jonathan Palmer will be back with Zach Speed, and of course the Beatrice Lola drivers will be Alan Jones and Patrick Tambay. But still a lot of unanswered questions for 1986 that we will continue to watch for you on Speed Week and bring you up to date on who is signing with who and who is going where in the weeks ahead and as we follow racing throughout the winter months.
I think at this point we should also thank the great FOCA TV crew led by Chris Davies and 2 of the bravest TV cameramen I've ever seen, Pepe and John Campo. They have exposed themselves to such dangers to bring you some incredible shots that we appreciate all year long. We enjoy working for them. This is the 30th broadcast of Formula One that they've assisted us with. The entire FOCA crew has done a great job of making these races as enjoyable as can be.
Here is a battle for 2nd position. Lafitte and Streep, teammates going at it here. They're on the same lap, and they're running 2nd and 3rd. Jacques Lafitte now has his hands full with the young Formula 3000 driver, Philippe Streep.
As you can see, Jacques Lafitte was not putting his hand up as a slow motion. He was waving his fist at his French teammate. I wonder what the team rules are relative to... right at the moment, there doesn't seem to be any team rules, or at least Streep doesn't think there's any team rules, because he is right up the exhaust of a much more experienced Jacques Lafitte. You can see the blue flag being held out there for Jacques Lafitte. I'm sure he doesn't appreciate that signal, but to have two teammates battling like this for a second-place position has to worry the Guy Ligier team owner back in the pits.
There is Keke Rosberg, and he's being given the signal one more lap to go on this 2.35-mile circuit here in South Australia. Keke Rosberg. Now they're side by side, the two Ligier drivers, and Lafitte, well, it appears that Streep is slowing down. Let's take a look at what happened. Oh, there was obviously contact between the two.
Some very good contact. That left front corner has definitely been dislodged off of the Street car. And Jacques Lafitte was telling him what he thought about it there with some very dynamic gesturing, but still, for that to happen between teammates this late in the race is certainly very sad. And look at Streep trying to bring that car home.
Well, the left front tire is bouncing around. The suspension broke on that, but he'll be trying to, and obviously having handling problems also, trying to keep the car on course.
He may be able to handle the left turns, but the right-hand turns have to be virtually impossible. Now, let me tell you, the bottom link is broken, but the top link seems quite secure. Now, if he can get that car around, I believe he has a long enough lead over the fourth place to go ahead and secure third place on virtually 3 corners.
That is the case, we believe. Lafitte, of course, is in second, but if Streep can finish the race, he'll be third. There's the checkered flag, and Keke Rosberg wins the Australian Grand Prix. Capelli 4th, Johansson 5th, and Berger 6th unofficially. Well, the Australian Grand Prix on ESPN has been brought to you by Kenwood Car Stereo. Sound perfection. It doesn't get any closer than Kenwood. And by Australia, the wonders down under. And by BF Goodrich, makers of high-performance TA radials. We make cars perform. Our congratulations to the winner of the race, Keke Rosberg.